see if we're live. Let me stop sharing screens and see if that. Oh shit! I gotta share screens or else my sizing messes up. Okay, we're good. Perfect. Got the album up. Are we live? Yeah, we're here. All right, cool. Hey guys, hello and welcome. The first episode of the Overcast. That's what we're gonna call it for now. I'm joined by Dan, Frodan, Chew, and of course, is it Alexander? Kolento?
Yeah, you can say like it.
All right, Alexander, is it? All right, cool. So good to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining me. Super last minute. We're just one day out from GVG being released, and a lot of people are asking about what cards are good, what cards are going to be good in Constructed, especially. So definitely felt like having Kolento on is the best for this. Of course, best player in the world, as commonly agreed upon. And yeah, so what? Let me go ahead and pull up kind of just a couple cards to talk about. What have been your thoughts so far on just GVG in general, like the way they're releasing it, the cards that you've seen so far, Frodan? What do you think?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed GVG personally. A lot of the additions. I, like many other players, were really worried about the random, like just being on a lot of the card titles. But I actually found out that helps it interact a lot because there's a lot of more minions with like stealth or like the spell immunity that doesn't allow you to target with hero powers and stuff. So some of the effects that say random on it actually help a lot. So like for example, one of my favorite cards for Mage is Flame Cannon, 2-mana spell. I'd actually think that card's insane in Arena, and like it helps you pick some really good trades. And all of a sudden, like tokens are much more viable because you can snipe like the Spectrum Knights much easier compared to before. So I personally think a lot of the stuff that GVG's come out is really cool. I unfortunately haven't got a chance to test many of the legendaries though, because that's where people are really worried, like what impact are they going to have specifically. So I don't know yet, but so far, very good first impression.
Yeah, Kolento, what have you been thinking about just GVG so far? What's your first impression on the set?
Before I took a closer look on the cards, I was upset about Common Expansion because I felt like it's too much RNG. But now I feel like all these cards which are RNG related, like hit 50% of time or hit random minion,
Crackle.
It's fine because it doesn't look that these cards will be used in constructed decks anyway. And for Arena, this RNG factor it actually gives you more fun. So why not?
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think cards like Crackle though are so good that they almost have to see play? Those are the ones that worry me with RNG.
Yeah, it looks like Crackle. It's one of those exceptions when this card will be played. Nevertheless, it's RNG related card. Compared to Lightning Bolt, it's just 1.5 more damage for 1 mana, which is good, I think.
Cool. Well, let's just pull up a couple cards that just seem kind of interesting here. Let's go over here. Let me pull it up real quick. One card I really wanted to talk about is Fel Reaver. And this is a card that is a 5-mana 8/8. Let me go ahead and get the picture for it up. But this is a card that I've seen a lot of mixed feelings about. Some people just don't think it'll be that good. Some people think that it's very strong. And it looks like I'm just completely incapable of... Oh.
Hurry, Reynad.
Yeah, no, I know I'm the worst at this. Maybe I can just do it this way. Save the thumbnail. Alright. There we go. Open it up. Good enough. Alright, well. Maybe I can do it this way. Add monitor capture. I'm not the best producer when it comes to this stuff, so...
Bring back Chan Man.
Yeah, exactly. He was good at that stuff, man.
I'm just messing, dude.
All right, yep, that works.
Well, I can start the conversation.
Yeah,
so
go for it.
Like a card I played around with, and like it won me some games automatically, but it also lost me some games because there's always a scenario where it's like there's no way like it actually matters until you deck out. But there are a couple games you do deck out, especially if you go up against like Warlock, because they usually draft really low. I'm not sure how it'll like affect Constructed, but Fel Reaver and Arena actually seems like super high risk, high reward. But personally, like it helped me get to the 10-win mark, but it also stopped it there. So I actually really like it. It's really fun, but at the same time, it's like really stressful too, because you know what cards you need specifically in certain matchups. Like if you're playing in Shaman Arena, you definitely need Consecration, and I was playing in Paladin, and I lost both of my Consecrations that I drafted. So it's like really unnerving sometimes, because if they just keep rolling the taunt totems, you have no way to get past it, even if you have an 8/8. So like there's scenarios where like Fel Reaver was really cool, and there's scenarios where it's just the most frustrating card if you don't have a silence or something like that.
Definitely. What do you think about the card, Kolento?
You get all that, Andre?
I did.
So it's 5 mana cost minion, and you're getting 8/8.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can play Sea Giant, and probably maybe half of times you will get this minion for 5 mana cost or less if you play like aggro decks. If you want to play Fel Reaver in control decks, it doesn't make sense, right? If you're asking about Constructed, what will be after GVG will be released.
Mm-hmm.
So if you play it in control decks, it doesn't make sense either, because if you play control versus control matchup and you play Fel Reaver, you will just lose to fatigue, because your opponent can just play as control as possible without trying to deal damage, and he'll just discard your cards. Every card he played will mean that you discard 3. So it's just enough like to spend as a warrior like cruel tasking to execute. You have 6 less cards, and you will deck earlier.
So how good do you think it is in aggro decks? I think this is the best card in the entire set for aggressive decks. I think like curving this just playing it turn 5 with Hunter, for example, is so insane. The drawback will almost never matter for an aggressive deck. I think I might play 2 of these along with Doomguard. I think I would play Fel Reaver before I play Doomguard in Zoo. That's how good I think it is.
Really?
Not sure how popular BGH will be. We might see maybe 2 BGHs in many decks, because it looks like this expansion will bring many 8 and 7 and plus attack minions.
Definitely.
Maybe if BGH will be as popular as Fel Reaver, will be playable for sure. But let's say you play turn 5, it's 8/8. Yeah, can be still executed, but can be removed by hard removal. But it's pretty good. I agree.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All right, so let's talk about, speaking of BGH, right? I want to kind of get your guys' thought on Hemet Nesingwary. It's a card that not too many people have talked about, but it's the latest in a long line of like predatory cards in Hearthstone, like Big Game Hunter, Black Knight, Harrison Jones. This is the latest, the destroyer of beasts. What do you guys think about Hemet in relationship to Constructed? I'll start with Kolento.
So it's 6/3 and Battlecry destroy a beast. Depends on how common beasts will be. As a minion, it's 6 attack and 3 power, so 9 stats for 5 mana, pretty awful. You can get maybe twice as more life for same amount of mana, and maybe even more sometimes, and special ability as well. So you can destroy beasts, but I can see beasts being popular.
Yeah. How do you feel about it, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, there's only really 2 classes that can play with beasts. So, I mean, it's a really cool hate card specifically, because everyone always complains about certain things. And I think this is Blizzard's way of saying that they've internally tested enough. Like, so just some background information. I actually get to chat with a lot of the balance designers too, just some thoughts about their game. And they're always talking about some of the cool combos that that they've been testing internally that they feel is broken. Like one of the combos that they said, for example, was the Power Mace with the Arcane Nullifier. The Power Mace is the one that gives like a Death Rattle +2/+2 with a Death Rattle on the Shaman weapon, and then Arcane Nullifier is a 2/5 Fairy Dragon that you can't target.
The taunt,
so you combine those two, and all of a sudden you have a 4/6 taunt that can't be targeted, and it's a mech. So like they were just telling me like all these cool combos and stuff, and then I asked them about this card, and one of them said, "Yeah, because beast decks are actually crazy in GVG." So they were telling me that they need this card because apparently there's, in their opinion, from the internal testing group, there are some broken beast synergies. So I think if people are underestimating maybe the value of this card, especially if those are the most popular archetype.
definitely. Definitely, like, to me, it seems like one of the more narrow hate cards that have existed. Like BGH, you know, every deck can play 7 attack minions. Every deck can play taunts. So cards like Black Knight and BGH are good, but very few decks can play beasts. So I think on ladder we probably won't see this guy. But I just thought it was kind of cool that we have a new hate card like this. Let's get on to Toshley, which is another. I kind of want to go over the cards that not too many people have talked about that. I feel like they should have gotten more press. So Toshley is a 6-mana 5/7. This guy's pretty cool. Kind of the best Boulder Fist Ogre, I think, that exists right now. So you get the 6-mana 5/7, pretty good stats. A lot like Cairn, I guess, is the way to compare it. You get the spare part right away, and you get a spare part when it dies. Dan, do you think this guy will see any play in Constructed at all? How do you feel about this card?
No, I know you like this card. I think you should be talking about some of your opinions too, Andre, because you have a lot to say about Toshley. I mean, everything I would say is probably a direct copy of you, but I guess you're going to get used to that anyways. So.
Well, we'll see.
What do you think about this card?
What do I think about Toshley?
After you talked to me about it.
I think it's sweet. At first, I looked at it, I was like, oh, this card's insane. It's one of the better 6-drops. I like it more than Cairn, because there's a big difference between 5 and 4 power. And the spare parts are actually pretty good. Like, this is one of the few guys where you don't care if you get the taunt spare part. Normally, I think the spare part that makes a creature have taunt is one of the worst ones, but if you have a 5/7, it's a lot less bad. But yeah, he's not vulnerable to BGH. He's not vulnerable to Silence like Cairn is. He's not vulnerable to Black Knight. He's just like a good mid-rangey value guy to play in control versus control matchups. And personally, I like him more than the 7 and the 8 mana big expensive dudes. What do you think, Kolento?
I personally think that spare parts are pretty useless.
Mm-hmm.
As a body, it's 5/7
Really?
for 6 mana. It's fine. It's fine. It's almost Boulder Fist Ogre. And as I remember, Boulder Fist Ogre was almost playable before Naxxramas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost saved, so I would say nope, I will not play it.
No? Alright. I'm the only one that believes in Toshley. That's fine. So let's get right on to a more exciting card for sure. I'd like to talk a little bit about Mal'Ganis, which is a card that a lot of people have been talking about. It's super exciting. I think this is the best minion in the game just to have in play, right? Like, if you could choose any trap or weapon or creature that you can just have on your side of the table, I don't think anything is better than Mal'Ganis. That's not to say he is like the best minion overall, because getting him into play is not always the easiest thing. But this guy, oh man, do you think this is it? This is what it takes to make the demon deck good on its own? What do you think, Kolento?
It's the best beast. It's the best demon to get from the void color, for sure. +2/+2 to your beast, and your hero is immune. It has so much synergy with implosion. If you manage, like, if you can get some, like, 3 wisps, 3 imps, and if they will be buffed with +2/+2, that's insane. But you're not often getting that imps. So even just as a minion, it's 9/7 for 9 mana. The only problem is, again, BGH. How popular this card will be.
Yeah, it's definitely BGH can blow out a lot of these cards. How do you feel about Mal'Ganis, Frodan? Have you gotten to play with anything with this guy yet? In Arena, maybe? Anything like that?
Well, not really, but I've seen it played because this was one of the few cards which Blizzard accidentally showed me when I was hanging out with them one time, and I was like laughing because I was like, "This card's crazy," and the guys were really happy because they were like, the way from what they were telling me is that they want GVG to bring out a new way to play each class, and that includes Warlock. Even though they have 2 well-known, very competitive decks with Handlock and Zoo, they wanted another way to play it. So they were really hoping to push Demonlock out onto the scene. You can see that with just all the demon synergies. I personally think that this plus like the floating watcher is just like, those are like 2 impossibly powerful demons just because there's so much synergy that you can do. That's the card that like gets +2/+2 every time you do damage to your hero. So like, the more stronger demons that you have that's not like Doomguard or like really random bad stuff like Pit Lord or like Succubus, if you try to make a synergy with Voidcaller, I think it's like really good. So the last thing that they need to fix is Bane of Doom to actually work the way it's intended, and then I'd be.
Would that be too good? There's so many expensive demons. Kolento mentioned this card, Implosion, right? So, personally, I like the idea of the demon deck. I mean, Warlock already does have 2 great ways to build it, but looking at the demon cards, the only ones I really like are Mal'Ganis, Voidcaller, and the Armorsmith card, the 2-mana 1/4 that gains life. I think these cards like Implosion, if you compare them to something like Dark Iron Dwarf, are they going to be good enough? Dark Iron Dwarf guarantees you the 2 damage, but you get a 4/4. Maybe this is better. You don't need a minion in play already. It might be really strong. I don't know, but it'd definitely be cool to try out. I'm a little underwhelmed with the early game in Demon decks so far, though. So, all right. What next? Okay, this is a card that I'd like to talk a bit about. The Iron Juggernaut. This is the the Warrior Legendary. And this is something that I really don't know how to evaluate. I just don't know how good it is. I think that of all the decks to have access to a card like this, Warrior is probably one of the best ones because the game's going to go long. So your opponent will only have like 15 cards in their deck when you play it. So you'll probably get the 10 damage eventually. But is that good enough as a 6-drop? Would you rather have Sylvanas? Frodan, what do you think about... Or Kolento, let's start with you. What do you think about this guy?
Yeah, it's 6/5 and it shuffles a bomb. Bomb deals 10 damage. Yeah, you can use it after Alexstrasza or whatever. You can use it as a 6-mana drop, and whenever bomb comes, it will deal damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a body, it's 6/5. 6/5 for 6 mana, acceptable. And Battle Cry is more than average. I think this card should be played, and and main reason why it's like how do Warrior control match goes against other control decks. You're playing in minions, and almost every time, 1 minion absorbs 1 removal if it has more than 4 toughness. Otherwise, it can be killed by a weapon, for example, in mirror matchup, or like a swipe against Druid. This is 5 toughness minions, so it should force 1 removal. It's good enough to force it, and it's threatening enough. But again, we have this Battle Cry.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a big fan of Juggernaut. Dan, what do you think about Iron Juggernaut? You think this guy will have what it takes? I expect to take 10 immediately. I don't even, like when it's played against me at least, I don't think the shuffle play will come into play, but how do you feel about it?
If someone has a show match versus you, I definitely think they should put this in their deck. But I think I talked to Brian Kilber a little bit, and he even blogged about it, and it's just like interesting to hear his thoughts about like certain card values. Like even if you put it into your deck, Warrior games are pretty slow, and does it even really matter? Because if you play this on curve, it's going to become before Alexstrasza. If you draw, does that mean you're saving it post Alexstrasza? Does this count as like a 10 mana legendary because you can't play it past Alexstrasza? So it's like all these things where I even question whether or not it's supposed to go into Control Warrior compared to maybe a mid-range, or if you're trying to be more aggressive. I'm not sure like what kind of deck you put it in, because the stats feels like it can give you some pretty reasonable amount of pressure. Is it a mech card at all? Because if so, then it's like it synergizes with like Mech Warper or other mech things that you might be able to do. So I think maybe if there's like a mid-range mech warrior deck of some kind, I think this fits into it a lot more than just sliding in control. Just because, I mean, you could put in control just because you can drop any legendary, right, and have really good effect. But I'm not sure if it directly synergizes as much as people think it is. Of course, other than the dream scenario of like, oh, he draws it, and I have Gromosh and Deathspite activated too. So
makes a lot of sense. So Paladin, I think we can all agree, has been like the most consistently bad deck overall of all the classes. For the most time, it's been the worst deck, more than any other class. And a lot of people were super disappointed when they saw Bolvar, right? They saw this guy and they're like, oh man, Paladin got shafted again. And personally, I agree. I think Bolvar is not that good, but I'm very excited about Paladin. I think it'll be one of the top 3 classes after the new set because of the other cards around it. Kolento, how do you feel about Bolvar?
I think it's a pretty good card, and I think I would play it for sure. What Blizzard is trying to do by applying such type of cards, I think they're trying to make mid-range Paladin be more playable. I think it's a good idea. Because I was trying mid-range Paladin, and I felt like it's almost as good as in competitive deck. It lacked some good cards, and Blizzard are giving them to us. So
Yeah.
You'll see.
I'm definitely with you on that. Mid-range Paladin will be the best version of it, I think, too.
And this card by itself is not so bad even in control deck. Like, whenever friendly minion dies while this is in your turn, in your hand, gain +1 attack. So you can just slam it as a 6/7 almost always.
Yeah.
For 5 mana, it's pretty good.
How do you feel about it, Frodan?
I'm in the this is a pretty bad card camp. I mean, it's another threat that you can play alongside, so that way, like, they only have so many Iron Beak Owls and Silences, right? So I guess it's another threat that can give you some viability, and you just have to take out, like, instead of playing Sludge Belch or something, you can just slot this in. I don't know. I guess if you get the spare part that swaps attack and health, you can also play some really cool stuff. I don't know. I personally don't think there's a lot of ways to use this card immediately without someone being able to show us. So if Kolento says he thinks it's good, then I look forward to the Reddit post that shows how Kolento got #1 legend with this card.
So I'm also in the camp that it's terrible, but this is why. On its own, I think it would be an okay card, but there's so much competition at the 5-drop slot. You want to play Lotheb, and this is the big reason why I think it's bad. This guy. Bomb Lobber is my pick for one of the best 5-drop neutral card. Like, for aggressive decks, Fel Reaver is better. For every other deck, Bomb Lobber is better. This guy, the first time I read him, I could swear it could shoot the face. So I thought it wasn't that good because there's a 50% chance you deal damage to their face. And control decks don't really care about that. So, but then I was talking to Firebat and he told me, no, it always hits minions. And I read it again and it does always hit a minion. I think this card is like so insane. Just on curve in so many decks. If you have a Haunted Creeper out, you can kill 5-mana creatures on curve. It's just so good against everything except opposing Haunted Creepers. I think this is like the Sludge Belcher of the new set. We're going to see this in mid-range decks, control decks. Just a great 5-mana value guy. Do you guys... Kolento, what do you think about this guy?
I'm not so sure about it. It's I mean, you can compare it to Fire Elemental. 6/5, and battle card deals 3 damage to minion you want to choose. For example, against Zoo, you might hit Nubian Egg. You never want to do it, right? Against Hunter, there's so many small tokens you would never want to hit as well. It's pretty good in control versus control, but again, Yeti, 5 life, still can be traded with your Bomb Lobber later. And all these 4 drops, what do you have? Like, maybe Ogre Brood? Will it even be played? Is it that good?
Dark Cultist, Spider Tank, Tinkertown Technician, those guys. If you just have anything in play, you can trade up, right? If they have a 5 health guy, you can just run your Spectral Spider into it and then Bomb Lobber. I don't know. I think this guy is super underrated. This is going to see a lot of play. I don't think it's really fair to compare it to one of the best Shaman class cards when this guy's a neutral 5-drop. It's a very different effect. So... I think he has a lot of potential just because of on curve how good 4 damage is. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I agree. I think one of the hardest things that, like, again, that is like really problematic is cards that you don't get to interact with, especially if there's things that are stealth or spell immune. And you actually are really surprised I'm always really surprised about how much this card performs in Arena. But I also think that this is a lot weaker than the Mage card that you play for 4 mana, it's a 5/4, and it does 4 damage to random enemies too. Like, that card's like actually bananas, and that's like the better version of this card. Like,
that
anything
that
has this kind of effect where you play it on curve and be able to get the board.
In Blast Mage?
Like,
yeah, Blast Mage.
Yeah. Blast Mage has stats. It's 4 mana. You can't compare it.
Yeah, it's also a class card. Again, can't compare.
Like, I'm saying the effect of it is still
Sure.
Try to see a comparable of like being able to grab the board.
Blast Mage deals 4 damage, right? If you have a mech.
Yeah.
And that can hit face, right? So I think on average, if they have 1 minion, you're going to deal 2 damage to their minion. So that's still really good. I agree with you that on curve that's better. But Bomb Lobber, the thing about this guy, you can play him when you're behind on board. If they have a guy and you don't, he's still good. That's so rare for a card. Most cards like that are just only good when you're ahead. This guy's good if you're behind or ahead. I don't know. Maybe I think it's better than it is. But yeah, we spoke about Paladin a little bit earlier, and this is my pick for one of the top 3 cards in the entire set that I would like to talk about. This is why I feel like Paladin didn't really get shafted, because this card is so freaking overpowered. Muster for Battle. I think this is phenomenal.
You think so?
Yeah, this is what'll make mid-range Paladin such a huge threat. It's so much guaranteed damage output onto your opponent's stuff, just their side of the board, between the weapon, the 3 recruits. This is single-handedly the reason that Paladin got 2 more cards in GVG than most people are aware of. Most people aren't considering Blessing of Kings and Blessing of Might as GVG cards, but they really are, because oh my god do they suck before this card exists. And after this card exists, all of a sudden you have access to double Blessing of Kings that you can reliably trigger every game, and it's a 4-mana Druid of the Claw. It's really good. So, and a Blessing of Kings, it's Lightning Bolt. So you have so many, or Rockbiter. You just have so many extra ways to build Paladin, so many different ways to go with it. I think this and the 2-drop Divine Shield guy are what are really going to push mid-range Paladin into being one of the top-tier decks. And as well as just its matchup against things like Priest and Warrior that have a hard time interacting with buffs and bubble guys. So, I don't know. Kolento, how do you feel about this card? Is this something you're looking forward to playing? Do you think it's an auto-include in Paladin, or it's just good in some Paladin decks?
It's kind of hard to say. Like, I think its card is pretty good, you're right. Your equipment is 1/4 weapon and 3 mana, which means most likely you will not be so tempted to play True Silver Champion as a follow-up. But 1/4, I was thinking about playing Light Justice sometimes. I was thinking about playing Light Justice once in just mid-range deck, even aggro deck with Divine Favor in it. It's fine at killing any kind of Hunter's minion, Lepergnomes. It's fine at dealing with 1/1 minions, which you'll probably see. And I think a reason why Druid didn't get that many good cards, it's maybe because of Swipe. Swipe will be so powerful after GVG, so Druid just will be strong even without extra value from good cards. I think his card is good enough to play.
Makes a lot of sense. And Dan, how do you feel about Muster for Battle?
Well, you know, I don't. You're theorizing a lot about the constructed stuff, and so I'll let you guys. But in Arena, I feel like this card is bananas because it's like the Paladin hero powers, 3 of them, and then it's like 2 Rogue hero powers, and Rogue hero power is so good in the early game to stabilize. And like a lot of times, the criticisms against classes like Paladin is like you can't use 1 damage to affect the board. So like, if you see this in Arena, you absolutely need to pick this card. It's just crazy. And I mean, compared to other rares that you often get, like Alder Peacekeeper or some other stuff, those cards are great, but I think this card's crazy. So just from whenever I've seen it played against me, it always has high impact. So. I don't know too much about constructed though. I think the Blessing of Kings is really interesting because then it's like you're jam-packed the 4 mana slot because I don't think you're going to take away True Silver or Consecration.
No. No, you keep the... Well, you might take away Consecration, maybe, for a mid-range Paladin. I think Dwarf might be better.
Wow.
It's close.
Wow.
Plus,
Muster with Defender.
Slow down, Andre. Slow down.
Go ahead, Kolento. What are you going to say?
Taking out Consecration.
not to forget Coghammer, a new Paladin card, which is a weapon as well, and it's 3 mana cost as well. It's 1/4 weapon. It's kind of awkward. Will you ever use all 4 charges? Because this new weapon is pretty good as well, and I think it will be playable.
Yeah, let me pull that card up. So Coghammer is the card that I thought wouldn't see play because it has too much competition. Like I think Muster's better, and it doesn't give you the risk of flooding on weapons. And as well, Sword of Justice also really good with Muster, which I think Sword of Justice competes with this now as well. But Coghammer, Battlecry, give a random friendly minion Divine Shield and Taunt. I agree with you, it's strong, but it's a 3 mana 2/3. I mean, we've already seen Stormwind Axe, the Shaman weapon. That card's pretty crappy. Is Coghammer that good? Is the Battlecry enough to make a 2/3 weapon playable when it's competing with so many other weapons? It's tough.
Maybe as a control option. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where maybe if you see Muster, you know it's mid-range. If you see Coghammer, you know it's control, because this is very defensive. People said that it's like build a Sunwalker if you have Ancient Watcher. And you just
Wait, but it's so... I think this card is really good. In control, Paladin, you will play many non-taunt minions.
Yeah,
even this 5/8 mech who will summon another legendary.
Oh, yeah.
This minion needs to have a taunt. Otherwise, how will you ever force your opponent to hit into it? And if you want to build your control Paladin deck without having minions with 7 or more power, not to be super vulnerable to VGH, it's not that many minions you can see without a taunt, with a taunt. I think it's a really important pickup for control paladin.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All right, so Vol'jin, the Priest legendary. This is my guy. This is my pick for the best legendary in the set. I see this guy as most of the time like a 5-mana fire elemental, which is absurd, but a lot of times it helps you beat things that you just couldn't beat before as Priest, like Mountain Giant, Fel Reavers. This card's going to be really good, I think. How do you guys feel? Is there a legendary you think that is better than Vol'jin, or do you think it's just terrible? Start with Dan. How do you feel about this card?
Oh, this card is crazy. I think it's absolutely auto-include. I know I've been saying crazy for everything, but I think that's a good summary of this entire expansion. Like, everything, power level seems to be out the window. I think you have to play this. There's just too much synergy with everything. Late game, you have, like, access to all kinds of spells and ability to attack, like Holy Nova, you have Holy Smite. You just have so much utility, and the 6 power is actually significant, too. It's one of the strongest minions already in Priest, assuming you're going to play more of a control style. I'm not sure how much this will affect. I mean, it maybe even slides into an aggressive Priest, because Blizzard also has like the Shadow Bomber and like other ways to be really aggressive with the Shadow Boxer. Those are cards that like allow you to be really aggressive. So if you're able to use this as like one of the ways to get a strong minion and bypass creatures with big health or taunts, then you're able to actually get through. So this card's actually really, really, really strong. I don't think it's the strongest legendary though, but I'll let Kolento talk about what he thinks about Vol'jin.
This card is insane. How to include?
Yeah. Thumbs it up.
Like, no comments. It's crazy.
Sweet. All right, let's get on to the next card.
Wait. So Kolento, do you think this is the strongest legendary in the entire set?
Yeah, I think it is.
We agreed on something. Sweet. Vol'jin confirmed. Good. All right. Let's talk about this guy. I just drafted him, and he won me a lot of games. Is this good enough for Constructed? The thing that really surprised me about Neptulon is how good it is outside of a Murloc deck. Almost any combination of Murlocs you get is a ton of value. It's like drawing 3 cards, roughly. 7 mana, 7/7 that draws 3 cards, even with the Overload. I think it might be good enough to see play, especially considering how few 7-drops compete in Shaman, even after GVG. But Kolento, how do you feel about the Fish Lord?
He looks creepy. Yeah, 4 random Murlocs and 7/7 body for 7 mana. It's pretty good. I think. Yeah, even if you're not playing Murloc decks, maybe it's enough just to add this 4 mana cost Murloc. You know who?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you
Old
don't
Murkai?
even need it. Yeah, it's not old Murkai. It's another guy. You don't even need it to draw. It's like for Murloc decks, it's kind of awkward. It's 7 mana minion. Do you even want it? It's too slow, I guess. Maybe. And it's BGH target. I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah, it's tough.
It requires testing for sure.
We'll have to play with it.
Clear.
Sounds like Kolento's gonna be playing double BGH decks the entire first week of the set.
That'd be pretty smart.
Might be.
Considering that there's a lot of stupid cards too that you need to just like if anyone ever plays Mogre the Ogre, you have to take it down immediately. You got to play BGH for that.
Mogre the Ogre, you like that guy? All right, Tree of Life. How do you use this card to your advantage? I have no idea. It looks terrible to me.
Same.
Yeah. Any ideas, Frodan? Thought steal it. Get the draw.
Yeah, so that way they have bad cards in their hand too to counter thought steal.
I'm gonna use it with Akanai.
Strifecrow was saying how Strifecrow really likes playing some of those grindy decks that go really long and like require thinking. So I think this is right up his alley. But 9 mana is just so much. Like I just nothing sticks out to me immediately as why you'd want to use this in any existing druid. But like I don't see any application at the moment.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Me neither. It looks terrible to me, but it's a cool card, an interesting effect. All right, let's talk a bit about Bouncing Blades, right? So, Crush is another warrior card. There's basically 2 warrior removal spells. There's Bouncing Blades, and then there is Crush, which is the... I'll get a picture of that one up soon, but it's the 7 mana destroy a minion. If you have a damaged minion, it only costs 3. So anyway, Bouncing Blades. Is there room in Warrior for all of these removal choices they have now? Is this better? Is this worse? I mean, there's obviously some Acolyte of Pain synergy. Kolento, how do you feel about Bouncing Blades?
So let's compare this card to Deadly Shot of Hunter. You're killing the minion with Deadly Shot. You kill the minion with Bouncing Blade if you don't have a board control. And it's random minion as well. So it's kind of same if you don't have a board control. So the only difference is it's in case if you have a board control. In this situation, you want to use Bouncing Blade on your minions. I guess you can use it on a Collide of Pain. You can do 3 cards, right? But it's 6 mana investment, and you're losing the Bouncing Blade spell, so it's -1 card. So in this situation, I don't think it's good. What else? Like Armor Smith when you need to get combo badly. I mean, when you need to get armor badly.
Even with like Frothing Berserkers in the deck, this doesn't get that much better.
Yeah, exactly. I think this card is not playable.
That makes a lot of sense. And of course, it does compete with a lot of warrior removal spells. It looks like we lost Frodan for a bit, by the way. Hopefully he'll be back soon, guys. But Crush, this is the card that it competes with. How do you feel about Crush? This one I think is pretty good. I'd play at least one in warrior control.
I think I would play 2. This card looks good, and it should be good in mech decks, which we will see for sure. Warrior gain so many good mech cards. So I can imagine some kind of mid-range deck with Battle Rage in it. And you're just using maybe Whirlwind and Crush as well.
Absolutely. Well, hey, before we'll see if Frodan does end up getting back in the call. We'll see if we... Oh, here we go. We're hearing from him. Let's get right on to another card I'd like to talk about real quick. Let me go ahead and pull it up. It's the Ogre Ninja, the 5-mana stealth one. Hey Dan, nice to see you back, man. Let me try to. Whoops. This is a bit tough. Hold up. All right, I think we've almost sized it up perfectly. There we go. All right. Anyway, Ogre Ninja. Let's pull that guy up. The 5-mana stealth 6/6 from Rogue. This is a creature that, well, it's another Ragnaros, and I'm angry at the world that it exists. What are your thoughts about this card, Kolento?
Can you repeat which card?
Ogre Ninja, the
oh
yeah, the stealth one, the 6/6 for 5.
It's hard to say. In my opinion, it's a drawback, 50% chance to hit the wrong target. It's quite huge. You can compare it to Stranglehold Tiger for Hunter. And sometimes it's even better for Hunter to play it over Tiger, because you can like hit the taunt if there is a taunt, and you can hit face because you're hitting the wrong minion, the wrong enemy, right? But it's such a rare situation. Usually, you just hit a pretty crappy minion if you want to hit face or do the trade you want to do.
Dan, how do you feel about this card?
Ogre Ninja. Man,
Wait, is it?
I don't know. I play against so many ogre brutes on Arena, and it is the most infuriating shit I've ever played against. It's just like taunts mean nothing, like interactions mean nothing. It just like hits what it wants. Like half the time it hits the wrong target for both of us. So like I don't want him to hit that, but he wasn't intending to hit either. I don't know. It just creates really awkward, interesting games. Like half the time it trades into things that it doesn't need to, or it ends up hitting the face when you have like 2 or 3 health left and actually is lethal. So it creates fun highlight reels, but for me personally, I would not want to mess with this card because I don't want to lose or win games with this. It's just too much for me.
Personally, I feel like it's a lot like Ragnaros. It's the same thing. It's good if you can keep the board clear on the opponent's side of the table, which Rogue is really good at doing. Rogue is really good at having a nice clean board for Ogre. So if you just have like 2 targets or just the one, I mean, that has a lot of damage output. And as stealth, you guarantee the hit, just like with Stranglethorn Tiger. Is the extra stat worth it for the 50% chance? It might be. I don't know. There's a big difference between 5 and 6. But, man, I really hope this card's bad so I don't have to play against it. Because, yeah, it really is the same thing. It's just Ragnaros flips.
I think it can actually be good if I just think about it a bit more. It's like stealth, so you can conceal it again after hitting. You can cold blood it twice, and if you can keep the board clean, that's actually what Rogue needs. Rogue needs to have a board control to get used from cold blood, and then if you manage to hit that conceal one more time, it's like no chance your opponent can ever come back.
Definitely.
It's 14 damage hit. It's just too much. And if you do it twice...
Makes a lot of sense. Alright, speaking of rogue, though, Gallywix, the Trade Prince. 6 mana, 5/8. This guy's even bigger than Toshley. And he stops your opponent from playing spells more or less, kind of like a better lore walker show in a way. I like the artwork on it too. Is this good enough to ever see played? Does Rogue care about the spells its opponent plays? I mean, it's a ton of stats. How do you guys feel about this card? Let's start with Dan. How do you feel about Gallywix? I think we lost him again. All right, Kolento. I'm gonna blame Milkcast for playing Mario Kart online and messing with Frodan's connection. But anyway, Kolento, how do you feel about Trade Prince?
I think it's a really nice card to have in your mid-range rogue, if such type will ever exist. What type of rogue will you'll ever see? What kind of cards rogue gain from the expansion?
I
think this Bud Auto Barber is sick, and new spells, they're looking nice as well. I think we might see some kind of minion-based, maybe even mech-based rogues. And in such type of a deck, I think this Trade Prince Gallywix can be good, because it's as a minion. I think this minion is crazy. 5/8 for 6 mana, and its special ability, I think it's strong as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the Auto Barber. Hey Dan, nice to see you back, man.
Hey, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
It's all good. Blame Charles. So, Auto Barber. This guy you mentioned, I completely agree. I think this might be the best card, or one of the 2 best cards that Rogue got in the entire set. This guy is awesome. It's like deadly poison with like on top of a creature. It's absolutely fantastic. You can actually coin dagger against some boards, like against Flame Imp or something maybe, and that'll be a play that's actually not terrible. But this guy's just great value. He fits into your curve easily. He enables combo. If there is some sort of fair tempo-based or mid-rangey rogue deck, this guy's going to play a core role in it. I definitely agree with Kolento. The 4-mana spells are way harder to evaluate, though. I don't know if the Deadly Shot is good. I don't know if I actually like the card that gives your weapon +3 attack and your creature +3 attack. I've been playing with that in Arena. It's really good with Stone Tusk Boar or like Southsea Deckhand and Constructed. So that combo might be really good, actually. It's like 12 damage out of nowhere. But, yeah.
Wait, I want to say something. Wait, did you guys talk about Gallywix already? I saw it a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about Gallywix a bit. How do you feel about that guy?
Yeah, I really, really like the card, especially because I think it's such a sick backup to Loatheb. So what happens is a lot of times if you Loatheb for like tempo on 5 because you just want board presence plus the 5/5, it's like another turn that they can't play spells, or if they do, they risk giving it to you, and they just don't really get much back. So I think Kolento was talking about the stats are just really good already. So I think like this is just like on curve. If you play like, say you just play the tempo rogue and you just have like a lot of good stuff, like you said, the auto barber, and you're securing a good board early on. You're playing like your normal stuff, whatever you want to play, Defias, SI7, and then you like Loatheb on turn 5 to start gaining a lot of momentum, and then you turn 6 Gallywix. It's like, how can I ever use my spells without like completely just giving you everything like that I ever gained from tempo? So I think it's like a really, really, really good card.
Absolutely.
Did I disconnect again?
No, you're here. Yeah, it makes a lot of
God
sense.
damn it.
There's well, you don't hear us, but all right. Let's talk a bit about Vitality Totem. Let me pull that up real quick. So one of the biggest weaknesses of Shaman for the longest time is that it just hasn't had access to healing. So you'll play against something like Hunter, you'll lose the board early and you'll take too much damage and you'll just die to hero power even though you stabilize eventually. So Vitality Totem. Let me pull this card up. It is the 2-mana 0/3 creature for Shaman, and at the end of your turn you gain 4 life. So you do get the value out of this, even if it dies. So it's not pulling up for some reason. Let me see if I can find it quick. But Kolento, how do you feel about Vitality Totem?
Can you remind me how much life you restore per turn?
4 life per turn, and it's a 0/3.
Isn't it 0/4?
Nope, it's a 0/3. Let me pull up the picture quick.
Yeah, so it's a totem. So with Totemic Might, this kind of can be an interesting card to play.
It's actually good enough.
I can see it being used actually a lot. Shaman, yeah, Shaman doesn't have healing, but Shaman doesn't need healing. What we see often is like classes who can heal is they have these cards because can heal, and they're good because they are class specific. It's not so important to heal for Shaman, in my opinion. Yeah, you're losing games against Hunter if you're running out of. I mean, if you can't establish board control early on, but if you will add this Vitality Totem into your deck, you will probably lose more because you will ever not get board control because instead of having a minion, you will have Vitality Totem, which you can't actually slam on the board. It's just 0/3. That's not so great.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
I don't think this card is so good. I don't think it's good.
Okay. Frodan, so how do you feel about Shaman's latest edition? They finally have some healing. What is your opinion on Vitality Totem?
I think it's great. I think it's 0/3 is like really good enough, especially because you already run Defender of Argus in the deck, and a lot of times what you need to do is be able to fill out your mana curve if you're not hitting your power minions like Azure Drake and Fire Elemental and Neptulon, which fits the mana curve really well. So a lot of times you can totem this. You can totem, play Vitality Totem, and then like Defender of Argus, and then you actually have a really good defensive setup. It lets you race really well too, even though you do take out a lot of the power. But I wouldn't be surprised if you just slide it in just for like one of them. I wouldn't play like two. That's just way too passive and slow. But I think just having one of them brings a lot of utility, in my opinion. Especially if you're able to protect it as well, like behind Feral Spirits, you just actually catch up in the game. Because that's one thing that like Shaman can't do, right? It can't catch up if it's always just on threat to like die to Soulfire or Doomguard, which is like something that really struggle against in Zoo. I don't know.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I get Kolento's reservations on this card too. A lot of times when we see cards that do nothing but heal, they're just kind of bad, like Holy Light or Healing Touch. What's up? Do you hear me, Kolento? What happened?
I hear you.
All right, cool. Did the stream go down? Or no, we're good.
No, I think it's fine.
Cool. So yeah, Vitality Totem. I get where you're coming from. If you lose board control, a lot of times you're going to lose the game anyway, whether you gain life or not. There are some games where the bit of life will help you, but the exciting thing with this... Sense, boys. The exciting thing with this is Totemic might actually be a real card. There's enough totems now where...
No, it's not going to be a bio.
It's not that bad. Yeah. Have you seen Gar's Bloodlust deck? He used to play 2 of it. It wasn't the worst. You go to like turn 5, you play 2 totems, you have 1 in play already. Boom, Totemic Might. This gains you 4 life immediately. They have to attack 5 damage into it to kill your Mana Tide, to kill this. Really good at Defender of Arguses. Yeah. Might see some play, I don't know.
It will make a great deck tech for TempoStorm.com. So that's about what that's all Totemic Might will ever be.
One day. That's all, man? Those decks are great. Alright, looks like we lost Kolento for a second here. Oh man, Skype is just... The
Fellowship's been broken, man. You probably have to be the only one carrying the show soon if me and Kolento can't stabilize.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey man, welcome back. Looks like Skype is the greatest threat to the show, running without production problems.
I don't think it's a Skype. I think it's my internet.
Oh, okay.
It should be fine maybe now.
Cool. Alright, so let's talk a bit about Shrinkmeister. This is a class card, one of the first cards we saw spoiled. It was playable in the demo, I believe, at BlizzCon. 2 mana, 3/2. This card, I think, is pretty interesting. I expect to play 1, I think, in Priest. And of course, there's the Cabal Shadow Priest synergy, but in a lot of cases when you're playing it, it's like playing a Voodoo Doctor that's a 3/2. You'll play it on their minion, you'll hit their guy, and it's like you developed a 3/2 and you took a little less damage on your dude, but outside of the Cabal, if you're playing all the Shadow Word Pains, maybe Shadow Madnesses, then I could definitely see playing 2 of these, but Dan, how do you feel about Shrinkmeister?
Yeah, I was really hyped for this card because I thought it'd be like super good. And when I talked to some other guys, especially like Firebat, he was saying like, "Oh man, it's just gonna be so good. It's like really good for tempo, and how you're able to just control the board so well as Priest. It gives you answers to 4 health minions, which is all right and true. But when I saw it performed, it's like a lot of times." Even more important than Priest is sometimes having stuff on board. This is at least in Arena. Like in Arena, you need the 2-drop as Priest. So like a lot of times the Shrinkmeister was just a vanilla 3/2, or even when it had an effect, it was a little underwhelming because it's not permanent. It's not like an Alder Peacekeeper. So if you don't have the cards in hand to combo with it, like Cabal, Shadow Priest, or Shadow Madness, it's actually just like you said, a life gain, like a Voodoo Doctor. And I was actually like in many scenarios underwhelmed by the card, but that's probably because it's Arena. So overall, I was not very impressed, but maybe Constructed will change my mind. So in Arena, it was like, that card is like okay, just another 2 minion in my opinion.
All right.
I think this card is insane, and you will see 2 copies of this card in every priest deck. It has such a good synergy with Shadow Madness, with Spain, with Cabal Shadow Priest. I think you will see 2 Shrinkmeisters in every priest deck and 2 Pains after expansion will come.
Wow,
And maybe even double Shadow Madness.
That's the most excited I've seen you get about a card yet. Oh man. All right, Shrinkmeister.
Yeah, and Constructed will definitely be super, super powerful, but
Cool.
Arena, it's kind of meh.
My first reaction was like Kolento. Oh, it's insane. 2 of in every priest deck. And then I played with it some in Arena, and I'm like, oh, this feels like Voodoo Doctor in a lot of cases. But I guess if you build around it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this guy, Whirling Zap-o-matic. A lot of people are saying this is an overpowered 2-drop. I personally think this is unplayable. I think Bloodfin Raptor that deals 3 damage to your opponent is not good enough for Constructed, but a lot of people think otherwise. I guess maybe in an aggressive Shaman deck. I don't know. Kolento, how do you feel about Whirling Zap-o-matic? Is this something that you're interested in playing in your Shaman deck? Personally, I'd rather play Haunted Creeper, Echoing Ooze, Nerubian Egg. I think they're all better.
It's more about how to protect this minion. I lost some games in Arena just because I couldn't kill it, and he was dealing 6 damage to me every turn. And for mech Shaman deck, I think this card is pretty good to play. It's like a normal minion, but it has Wind Fury, so the only difference between this minion or like Bloodfin Raptor, it's if you can protect it or not.
Makes a lot of sense. I've sense, boys. All right, so I'll try to stop using that. All right, so the way I feel about mech decks, actually, for all of them, I think they're all pretty weak. I haven't seen one that I like. Warriors looks good. Actually, Rogue looks good too for mech, but it feels like a very balanced strategy, and I want to try doing very degenerate things that beat up on mid-range decks. But maybe, oh man, I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope that there are some great mech decks out there. And it's cool that there's so many different ways to build every class now. But yeah, last but not least, just to kind of begin to wrap up, I'd like to talk about a card that I think there's an extremely high chance is the best card in the set. This is a card that we might look back on and just say, oh my god, this is the biggest mistake Blizzard has ever made. Why does this card exist?
Wait, can I guess?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Is it Tinkertown?
No.
Technician? Because you were talking about how broken that card was going to be.
Not broken. That card's good. It's like the core of mech decks. If mech decks are good, that guy's why. But now the card that I think might just be a blatant mistake that might get hot fixed in a week or 2 is
Oh, Mech Warper.
Nope.
Is that what you're talking? Oh.
Unstable Portal.
Oh yeah, that's right. Of course.
This card, right? Yeah. This is the argument. If there's a card hypothetically in the game that said you have a 2 mana mage card, when you play it, you have a 90% chance to win the game, 10% chance it does nothing. That card would be overpowered, and I don't think anyone could argue that that card would be the best card in the game. Now, if there was a card that said, same card except 1% chance to win, 99% chance to do nothing, that card would suck. So that means that do we agree on that so far? Do you agree with that, Kolento?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. So if that means there's some number, there's some percentage between 1 and 99, or 1 and 90, where we have a balanced playable card. I think that percentage is like 15 or 20-ish. Unstable Portal, that's its chance to get a card that costs 6 or more, is about 20%. 20%. It's about 80%, I think, to hit a card that's 3 or more, or sorry, 2 or more. 70% for 3 or more. So, like when you play this card, there's just a chance you just win the game. That chance is something like 20. You just win the game. All of the other odds, the other outcomes, it's not like you're getting Grimscale Oracle. You're still getting like a decent playable card. You're just like rolling to win the game on the spot with a very, very high chance of actually winning because of it. And when it fails miserably and you get Grimscale Oracle, oh well, you played a 2-mana 1/1. Who cares? Like, I think this card might just be an astronomical mistake and might be it is the most RNG thing to ever happen in the game, but it's it might be just too good not to play because of the X% chance of just winning on the spot because of it. What do you think about that? Start with Kolento. Do you think I'm just completely wrong and it's just too RNG and it sucks?
I think this card is good enough to be used in constructed decks. And this card is RNG related, so I don't like it at all. And you're right about it. If you will get like Savannah High Main from Unstable Portal, isn't it game over?
Yeah, you just win.
I think it should be a 3 mana cost spell.
Yeah.
To make it less, to make it be not playable in constructed, but to make it be still good enough to play it in arena, just to have fun from playing it.
Yeah, or maybe a 2 mana, reduce the cost by 2, something like that. Dan, how do you feel about it?
I've lost this card. Every single game I've played against it, I've lost against it, but that's because I have a conspiracy. I'm in that conspiracy ring where I think Blizzard is like artificially inflating the number of legendaries you see in Arena just to get you excited, because it's like every single time they have like Sylvanas, or like they played the Beast on turn 3 and I actually couldn't do anything. I died in 2 turns. So like, I don't know, like this card, like when you first tried to convince me, I was like, okay, Andre, sure, yeah, you know, like, oh yeah, Mad Scientist was great. Okay, we believed you and after we saw it, but I think you're right. I think this card's actually like ridiculous. The fact that you can run 2 of them in a deck and playing it on turn 2 is like absolutely bananas.
Like a really good comparison is like Wild Growth, for example. You know, you draw turn 2 Wild Growth with Druid, you're very far ahead, but you don't necessarily just win the game. This card, you might just win the game, and if you draw it on turn 6, turn 7, turn 8, it's not like a dead card like Wild Growth is. You just play it. Oh, I got a Van Cleef. Let me play my 2 mana 6/6, like, or whatever. It doesn't even matter. You roll Bloodfin Raptor. Oh yeah, drew Bloodfin Raptor. That's better than drawing Wild Growth turn 8. Like, and it can win you some games that no other card can. Like, oh, they have Assassin's Blade, and you're just about to die to it. Oh, I got Acidic Ooze or Harrison. You just have outs to everything that you can. There's like some small percentage of games that you'll just win because they got the exact like card that they had no business getting. Yeah, so I don't know. Well, any other closing thoughts, Kolento? How do you feel about GVG? Are you excited for it? What's like the first deck you're gonna play? What are you most excited about the set specifically? Any card, any deck, any class?
I'm excited about Warrior Mag decks. I think they will be strong.
That's awesome.
Really strong. Mechs have some mid-range, neutral strong mechs like Spider Tank. It's 3/4 body. It's like
good enough.
Dark Cultist, and it's like a mech as well, so you can play it in every deck which related on mechs usage. So I'm excited about seeing mech decks a lot, but I think if mid-range based minion decks will be popular, it should mean that control decks should be popular as well, because control decks are suited to be, if not in advantage, but as good as against minion based decks. So I just expect to see lesser amount of aggro decks overall, more mid-range, more control. And that nerfs which happened not so far, not a long time ago. Cool. They only hit aggro decks, so yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
just control mid range. That's what I like.
Awesome. Yeah, mech decks. That's at first I thought they were like pretty bad, but after looking, I think like Warrior and Rogue look decent for it. And Snow Chugger. I want to play Snow Chugger. I'm excited for that. Frodan, how do you feel, man? What are you most excited about for the set? What's the first thing you're going to do when it's live? Just more arena, or are you going to...
Nah, man. I'm going to ask you or Hyped to give me a ladder deck, and just going to try to see if you can get to Legend as fast as possible. I'm actually really excited to see like things that we aren't expected yet. Like, how good is Beast Druid, for example? Like, if you have a lot of synergies with Beasts. Blizzard put in that Hemet Nesingwary for a reason, right?
Keep them in check.
I know, but either way, it's like, well, I think actually it's going to be really cool. I want to see people like really break the metagame. I think Mill Rogue, people are like saying a lot of cool stuff about it too, like different ideas and whatnot. So I just want more ways other than mid-range, aggro, and control. I want to see if Burn Shaman's a thing. I want to see if Mill Rogue's a thing. I want to see if people can play with different tribes and whatnot. Can Pirate Rogue make a comeback, Kolento? I don't know.
Comeback.
You have to show us the way. So I'm looking forward to all kinds of cool stuff that'll be coming in the next expansions.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me on the show. Big thanks to Kolento, Dan. It's been fun. We will see you guys next week. What day is it today? What day is it? Today's Sunday? Hey, that's a Sunday show. We'll see you next Sunday. Same time-ish, same place, more details this time. Thanks for watching the first episode of the Overcast. And, of course, starting tomorrow when GVG is released, make sure you check out TempoStorm.com if you're interested in some new decks. Right as we play the set, we're going to be making guides. So if you want something just new to try out, check it out. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.